So in this video, we'll be going over 5 different tips on how to deal with difficult people. Stay tuned. My name is Michael and welcome back to the Growth Mindset channel. So in this video, we are going to be talking about how to deal with challenging people. I know we've all been there when we were going through school. We probably had a challenging classmates or a difficult person to work with. Maybe you're at a job and your coworkers are really hard to work with, or maybe your roommates are extremely hard to work with and just deal with. And so sometimes you might be unsure of how to respond to these type of situations, but fear no more. A lot of times you might know someone that comes off as really rude, and all the time you see this person, you always think of those terrible moments that you have with that individual. Maybe they're known for being just extremely aggressive or passive aggressive, and you're just really unsure of what to do. And this might be hard, but the first tip that I have for you, to something that's really rude to you, first thing that you should think of is it an action that is making you upset, or is it an emotional response that's making you upset? I've been reading a lot about Stoicism, and it's really about the philosophy of taking things at really face value and then interpreting what they said into basically generic words with no emotion involved. And I can go into a whole different video on Stoicism because there's just so much topics and so much philosophy behind that discussion. Basically, what I like to do is that if someone says something offhanded to me, the first thing I think of is, are they trying to directly attack me? Are they trying to say something verbally that is going to hurt my feelings? Or are they asking for an action out of me, perhaps a task that needs to be done or a certain response that they're looking for? And so I don't think of things, or I try not to think of things as an emotional response, because all of us are humans and humans are emotional animals. So sometimes things might come off as rude, but I think the biggest thing to do, especially if someone says something that is really rude to you, it's challenging yourself to not respond immediately and slow down and think about what they said. And to be better than the other individual is to not be emotional in their response. Just be very stoic, very calm, be clear-headed when you say something, so you won't have any regrets of saying something offhanded because you were at a very calm and at ease position for yourself, and that will come off as a very confident behavior for someone else sees you, because you are not being reacted and jerked around because of an emotional response that someone might be trying to get out of you. So really, bottom line for this one is, if someone says something really rude to you, think first, is it an action? Are they trying to get an emotional response out of you? Or are they just asking you to do something and you might not have thought of it as a very simple task from the start? And to elaborate on, you might have hard people to work with. You might have people that are above you in your position or a higher title than you. So they might feel like they can boss you around. And I understand guys, this might be in a position where you can't actually say anything or do anything because you're in a corporate position and you kind of just have to do what they say to an extent. And if the behavior now doesn't follow certain HR requirements, then yes, you can go down that path. But if they're really bossing you around, there's different ways you can handle this. And my best approach is to really think back and figure out, why are they asking me to do something, and then how can I do that so that I can get something done, benefits yourself in your career without ruining the image that you have for your own self in that position. Another thing too is that if someone does say an offhand comment, tip number 2 is to just take a step back, take a breather, maybe walk away from the position and just think, are you overreacting? Or if you know you're going to overreact because that's just the behavior that you might have and it's really hard to control, then I would recommend walking away or not responding immediately to a person, so you can really have a clear decision or clear response when you talk to that person again. What I like to do is, if I ever receive an email that is really aggressive or really demanding, I'll read it and I'll just sit on it. I won't even respond, because I know sometimes you might write an email up and you want to hit send because it feels so good to send something really mean to that individual. But that can come off as really bad, because now you're playing the game of being really rude to each other. That email might get to someone that probably shouldn't see it, and then now you're going to have to defend yourself or explain yourself on why you sent out a nasty email like that. You know, as a good reference, a historical marker is that President Abraham Lincoln used to actually get terrible emotions from different people. He would get really mad and really angered and really stressed out. So Abraham Lincoln's strategy to handling the level of stress that he was exposed to is that he would actually write out he would write out, not emails, because emails didn't exist during that day. He would write out letters, and he would write it out, seal it up, but he would never mail it out. So any mail that he wrote up, any letter that he had, he would just leave in his desk or just toss into the fire the next week, so that individual would never actually see the emotions and feelings that Abraham Lincoln had at the time. And this could be a good strategy too, is that if you're really emotional or really just vested in trying to say something back to a person, I would highly encourage you guys, you can write the email, but sit on it, at least for a few hours, but maybe a day if you can, but at least a few hours at minimum, to really just clear your head and think about what you're saying and understand the position the other person might be in. Really, another thing too is that a lot of anger, a lot of emotion really comes from miscommunication. So I would recommend, as a third tip, is to really think about what the other person is saying and understand the position they may be in. The other person might be in a position where perhaps they're being forced to say something or get something done in a short period of time, but you don't know what that is. I see this all the time at work too. Someone might be really motivated to get something done in a few hours or by the end of the day, but I don't really understand why a task may be so hot. So I try to take a step back and imagine what position they're in. Perhaps their manager wants something done really fast so it can go to feed into another project, or maybe you have to give out information because people are waiting on you to get things done. So I know sometimes it might be a little bit stressful for someone to say something really rude to you, but I would just recommend taking a step back and understanding maybe there is essentially a black swan behind, like something behind the curtain that you don't know about that they're trying to get. Now, another thing too is that I know if you really despise or really don't like someone and they're always in your life, where you always see them, maybe they're in your friend group, maybe they're in your classes, maybe they're in your job, in your workforce area, and you really just don't like that individual. And this might hurt your image, or this might hurt what people think of you because you always act differently around that person. I would recommend, as for tip number 4, try to be in control of your emotions. I know it can be really hard to just not say anything, or you try to come off as really aggressive or passive aggressive, and that can really get to you, because then now you're thinking after the event of how you reacted, maybe how someone viewed your response to that really mean individual that you didn't like, and then that hurts your credibility. So I'd recommend that really to be in control of your emotion. Really that falls back to being stoic, is just you take in information that sure you didn't have control over, you don't have control over what someone says to you, but you have control of yourself. So then someone could say something to you and they're probably trying to get something out of you, maybe some type of emotional feedback, but the way to win in this scenario is to not respond aggressively and not to respond so quick or they feel like they're winning in a conversation. So don't give them that reward, just take a step back. You know, like I said, be in control of your emotion, be in control of your mind, and think at ease when you make a phrase or a decision to someone so that you won't regret it later on. Another thing too is that let's say this person does always bother you and maybe they just don't know that they bother you. So I would recommend talking to them one-on-one. You know, nothing violent at all. Simply just saying, hey, let's have a conversation. You know, what you've said to me in the past really does bother me, and I would prefer if you didn't say things like that around me or around my friends. This is probably something that you should think of doing probably first before going through any other chains to try to solve the problem, because they probably just don't know that they're doing it, and it might help them if you set them aside and say, hey, listen, I have something to say that I've been wanting to talk to you about because it's really affecting my emotions. There you have it, guys. Those are the 5 tips on what I recommend for handling someone that is very difficult. If you guys have any other tips on how to do this, go ahead and leave a comment below so that we can all share and benefit from your great ideas. Thanks for watching, guys. This is the Growth Mindset channel. And please do me a favor by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with one of your friends, as we are trying so hard on the Growth Mindset channel to develop and share meaningful content for all of you guys. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Bye.